Good evening, folks. It's great to have you all together for this gathering. I'm John McCheyne, and I'm a brand ambassador with the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And I hope now that we're going to be talking to people all across Europe, that lots of you will tell us that you're here and maybe share some of your whisky experiences with us. And certainly, if you've met me on my travels, please say hello. Gatherings are very important to us in Scotland because it's associated with the gathering of the clans, and it's been something which has been a feature of Scottish life for hundreds of years. So I love the word gathering, and I love to have a gathering. And these very special whiskies today are to celebrate the idea of our gathering, and they've all been picked and labelled and given titles by our members, not our tasting panel. This is terrific. So tonight I'm going to be speaking to our ambassadors right across Europe with 5 different drams. But first of all, let me introduce you to my colleague from the vaults, Dean Marinello. Hiya,
Slag.
Dean. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Cheers, John. Not bad, my man. A little bit better than Partick Thistle.
Now,
So
now, now, it's funny you should mention that, folk. Some of you may know, folks, that my passion, other than whiskey, is Partick Thistle Football Club. And Dean's uncle played for Partick Thistle way back, starting in the year that the society also started, 1983. So 40 years ago next year. So there's a wee connection there between Dean and Partick Thistle.
yeah, brilliant, John. Thanks a lot for the intro. I'm delighted to be part of the EU ambassadors and everyone that's taken on for our event tonight. Ever since back in May in Scotland with our festivals and flavour hunting program at the society, where obviously within the UK, in Scotland, we have our festivals of Speyside, of Feshiel, of Highland, of Lowland, and everyone seemed to be pretty enamoured with the wee sample bottles that they were given as part of their discovery packs. And so from flavour hunters back in May into the flavour gatherers that we all seem to be as a growing global society. Hello to everyone, and looking forward to hearing people that can speak more than one language, unlike myself. So
I bet, I
yeah,
bet you,
cheers,
I bet you
cheers
can
to the
speak a
guys.
bit of Scots.
I can speak a
I
wee
can
bit
speak
of
a bit of
Scots,
Scots.
a wee bit of Leith, and a wee bit.
Hey, listen, folks, I tell you, Dean raises a good point there. The society is going through a very successful growth period. We're now just over 36,000 members, and we're in more and more countries around the world. We've just opened up in Spain. But Dean has been around for a while. How long have you been there, Dean?
I'm going on nearly 13, lucky for some, nearly.
13
So
years. And I've been with the society for 15. And next year is our 40th birthday, folks. So you can look out for some really great things happening next year. All started by Pip Hills, although we'll mention Pip as we go through the tasting. Pip's been very active for us in the last few years. He's just been to Whisky Live in Paris. So, yes. So should we go on with the first dram then, Dean?
yeah, absolutely. We've been having a wee couple of cheeky sips there on the intro. And
Okay.
hello, Slange to everyone. Thanks for joining. And I think Anthony, one of our managers at the Glasgow venues, I think he's going to introduce this one, John. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Tony. Over to you for 73144. Oh, I should say to folks, if you printed off your tasting mat, that's great. The order we're going to be going in is 73, 39, 18, 68, 112. But we're starting off with Tony and 73144. Over to you, Tony.
All
Welcome.
right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Happy weekend and happy gathering. So my name's Anthony, and yeah, I'm based in Glasgow, but I'm currently actually down in the south of France visiting my parents. And part of the whole kind of gathering thing kind of goes pretty well together. And yeah, so we'll be talking about the first dram of the evening. I'm going to actually introduce it in French to keep that kind of European idea with it, and I might go back into English afterwards to kind of translate a little bit what I was talking about. But yeah, bonsoir à tous, mesdames, messieurs, les Français, Françaises, Européens, Anglais, Allemands, Suédois, partout. Donc, je m'appelle Anthony, je suis basé à Glasgow, mais ce soir, je suis dans le sud de la France. Je visite mes parents. Et la team de la Society a eu la généreuse idée de m'inviter à vous aider à déguster ces nouveaux whiskies qu'on a sortis pour le Gathering. Donc, je vais commencer par le whisky numéro 1, 173-144. Donc, nous sommes dans un whisky qui est à 62% et demi, ce qui est assez fort. C'est le whisky le plus fort de la soirée. Donc, ne vous inquiétez pas, ça va bien vous chauffer les papilles. S'il y a une chose que je peux recommander avant de finir ma partie de la dégustation, je vais vous demander peut-être de ne pas finir le whisky tout de suite. On va le goûter ensemble, essayez-le, et puis ensuite passer au deuxième, au troisième et retourner au premier. Parce que c'est le premier drame de la soirée, il est chaud, il va vous réveiller, il va vous éveiller les papilles. Mais une fois que vous passez au prochain, vous allez, ça va vous réchauffer un peu les papilles, vos papilles vont changer. Et je vous promets, une fois que vous retournez au premier whisky, il va changer pour vous. Vous allez avoir peut-être un peu plus de saveur, un peu plus d'arôme. Mais on va rentrer dedans tout de suite, directement. Donc, si vous êtes comme moi, que vous avez un petit départ de rhume, je suis un petit peu congestionné. Donc, mon sens de l'odorat n'est pas vraiment à 100%. Pareil pour le sens de goût. Mais pour apprécier un whisky, il n'y a pas besoin de se focaliser essentiellement que sur l'arôme et sur le goût. Il y a aussi deux autres facteurs qu'on peut prendre, c'est l'apparence du whisky et la texture. Et s'il y en a dans le virtual world qui ont eu le Covid et qui ont perdu le sens du goût et qui ont quand même essayé à apprécier certains whiskies avec la texture, eh bien, on peut réessayer ce soir. Mais je vais essentiellement me focaliser un petit peu là-dessus et je vais vous laisser interpréter vos idées au niveau des arômes et au niveau du goût du whisky. Mais au niveau de la couleur, on a quelque chose de très paillé, un côté un peu or clair, or blanc, ce qui est assez classique venant du type de fût qui a été utilisé pour ce whisky. Donc, nous sommes dans un premier remplissage d'ex-bourbon, chêne américain. Donc, il va donner beaucoup de couleurs dorées, brillance. Si on serait avec du chêne européen, qui en général aura un petit peu de... il y aura peut-être du vin rouge ou du sherry, Xérès, Pedro Jiménez, Oloroso, vous allez avoir quelque chose d'un petit peu plus foncé. Donc, c'est une couleur assez classique pour un whisky de premier remplissage, ex-bourbon, 11 ans d'âge. Donc, il est quand même assez jeune. Donc, il n'y a pas trop d'influence de fût. On devrait avoir un bon équilibre du caractère du spiritueux et de l'influence du fût. Donc, très belle couleur, très classique pour un whisky qui est de cet âge-là, âge d'un premier remplissage de fût américain, ex-bourbon. Donc, on a quelque chose qui est quand même assez, pour moi, je sens plus ou moins l'influence du bois. Donc, c'est quelque chose d'assez généreux sur la vanille, la crème. C'est très pâtissier. Ça va être un bon whisky pour commencer. C'est un peu léger, ça ne va pas vraiment surprendre. Donc, en bouche, un petit peu chaud. C'est sûr qu'il y aura besoin d'eau. Donc, j'espère que vous avez une petite carafe d'eau ou quelque chose pour vous servir. Donc, ouais, assez chaud. On ressent un petit peu le fruit. Donc, le whisky ici, il s'appelle un coin de nature. Un petit jeu de mots. Je ressens un petit peu un côté fruité, mais c'est frais. C'est pas vraiment pâte de fruits au coin, quoi. C'est plus fruits frais, coin frais. Mais on ressent quand même la douceur du fût qui arrondit vraiment le whisky. Et comme je vous dis, j'apprécie beaucoup plus les textures ce soir. On a rajouté l'eau, ça l'a épaissi un petit peu. Et on a quelque chose qui enveloppe la bouche, qui couvre le palais, qui colle un petit peu. Et ça, c'est très bon. Et une autre chose qu'on peut regarder au niveau de l'apparence, on n'a pas besoin d'observer que la couleur, mais aussi, vous avez ce qu'on appelle les larmes ou les jambes. Donc, une fois qu'on rajoute l'eau, elle s'affine un petit peu. Mais avant que je rajoute l'eau, j'ai vu, c'était quand même assez épaisse. Elle coulait assez lentement. Donc là, vous avez déjà une idée du niveau de texture que vous allez avoir avec le whisky. Et en général, ça s'influence un petit peu plus au niveau du processus de distillation et de l'influence du fût. pour moi, classique flavor profile de Sweet Fruity and Mellow. On est en plein dedans. On a une abondance de fruits frais. Bon, pour moi, c'est plus poire, pomme. On est sur des fruits chair blanche, mais frais. On n'est pas vraiment sur quelque chose de nécessairement séché ou cuit. Et on a un peu plus l'influence du fût, mais c'est un très bon whisky pour commencer, assez léger. Une touche d'eau, je recommanderais pour l'ouvrir, mais toujours essayer sans eau, bien sûr. Mais pour un de nos whiskies pour la French Society, ça marche très bien. On a sorti 217 bouteilles de ce whisky. Et bien sûr, une fois qu'elles sont parties, elles auront disparu. Donc, soyez sûr de vous en accaparer une. Merci. Right, I think I'll just switch into French a little bit, go through quite quickly. So I was basically explaining. I've got a beginning of a cold a little bit, so I thought let's try to adapt. I'm not going to analyze too much on flavor and nose and talk about the appearance.
This distillery, actually, Tony, one of our tasting panel chairmen said some years ago that he often finds with this distillery that gets toffee, raisins, and citric notes. So I don't know what you were getting there, but certainly as I was sipping it, I was getting that kind of flavor, you know?
Maybe I would definitely see the kind of like patisserie, toffee, creamy desserts. Not necessarily raisins or dried fruits. It felt pretty fresh. But as I said, like my nose and my palate is not 100% tonight.
Sure.
I'll let you guys be the judge of it, to be honest.
Sure.
But in terms of texture,
I
really enjoyed that. In terms of texture, I thought it was really nice and thick and coated the mouth for something that seems quite light to the eye in color. It had a really nice, thick, buttery oiliness. I also encourage people to maybe not completely finish the dram before the next one. You know, try a little bit, taste it, go to the next, like try the second one, the third one, go back to it. It's a 62.5% dram. Don't feel bad if it's like kicked you in the face and you feel like it's a bit too hot. You know, take your time, drink loads of water, go back to it, and it's not the dram that's going to change, but it's your palate that's going to change through the tasting.
Absolutely.
I think,
and it's also amazing how you can get a flavour experience from a dram sitting here this evening, then try the rest of the dram from the bottle a few nights later and get something completely different. You know, it's just the wonder of single cask, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. For sure. Out of all the 73s I've tried, I find it quite pretty classic. But
yeah.
No, Tony, well said there. John, just a wee lead in for you to just for us all to remind ourselves that, I mean, it's fantastic tonight that all of tonight's drams and the tasting notes have been selected by our growing membership base around the EU. All drams selected by various markets within the EU, and that's magic. I mean, we're going into our 40th anniversary, as John mentioned earlier on, everyone, next year. And so leading up to that, and on our final year of the 30s of the society, it's just pretty cool for Anthony to come in with, I think his accent's lovely when you hear that Irish tilt, but I'm nodding my head as he's speaking French. And to me, it sounds absolutely pitch perfect. So, mate, thank you for that. And that will be a theme tonight of everyone leading into their dram, because it's been selected by EU markets, membership bases around the EU. All the flavour hunters around the EU that are growing in membership, they're responsible for tonight's dram. So, slange.
Yeah.
One of our bar ambassadors a few years ago in London, Tony, was a lass called Helene Manigault, and she was fantastic. She was from France, and I'm sure all of the London members who are here will remember her fondly. But she left and went back to France, and her place was taken by another bloke who was French, and it turned out to be Helene's brother. It was Yves Manigault. So when Helene and I did tastings together, we used to call them the Old Alliance tastings. So when Yves and I started doing tastings together, we started calling them the New Old Alliance tastings. So there we go. I've got just a couple of things to say. Anne Bingham has said hello, good friend of mine. from
Hello,
Southampton.
Anne. Yeah,
Here you are, yes. And obviously,
she,
and she knows Tony very well. She was at the
yeah,
Glasgow West gathering a few weeks ago.
yeah,
And Anne and I will be together on Monday evening talking to a potential new partner bar and members tasting venue down in Southampton.
Awesome.
So I look forward to that, Anne. We've also had a little note there from Stephen Teague, who's an Australian in Glasgow. So I'll tell you what, Stephen, I've just been in Australia with our branch down there doing tastings in Sydney and Melbourne. So when I'm back in Glasgow, you and I need to get together to swap tales of an Aussie in Glasgow and a Glaswegian in Australia. Okay?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, well, Dean was talking about bringing, having me host the tasting in French. You're talking about that earlier. I was in Paris last weekend, and Pip came over to visit our French members because we did our first Whisky Live,
Sure.
Whisky Live, which is it's
Brilliant.
probably the best whiskey festival I have been to. Very well organized, really clean, and loads of crowds, massive, like so many passionate people. And Pip came along with us, and we did a tasting the night before the festival in Golden Promise, which was one of our partner bars in Paris. An insane collection of whiskies, like absolutely crazy. And Pip himself did the whole introduction in French, which was great. And he didn't even have it written down or anything. It was all in his head. 79 years old. And
he said to me that he doesn't know how it went. It's French from 70 years ago, he said.
It was great. People really appreciated it.
Yes,
all the French members really, really enjoyed it. They were quite surprised.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was a great time. It was really, really nice.
Anybody who hasn't, any of you members who haven't read Pip's book called The Founder's Tale about how the Scotch Malt Whisky Society started up and the whole story, you should try and read it. It's just a fascinating tale. He's a great storyteller.
That's a craft.
I just saw as well, we've got a member, Dewey Min. Apparently we met in Paris at the Whisky Live as well. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, amazing.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for that, Tony. Any other comments on the 73 from any of the members? Did we all enjoy it? Yes, Anne Bingham saying it's a fantastic, fascinating and hilarious read. Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. He's got other references in terms of books as well. He actually edited a book called About Scotch from 20 years ago, which is other whiskey experts giving their views on Scotch, and Pip's edited it. So that's a very good book too. Right, okay, so we should move on to the next dram then. Thank you very much, Tony.
Slange.
For the next dram, we are going to the Benelux region, and I'm going to hand over to our Monique from Benelux.
Hi.
And this is for 39251.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. So I'm the ambassador actually for Holland, for the Netherlands, but part of the team from the Benelux. So this dram has been described by members, like already was mentioned, and I'm going to do the discussion about the tasting notes in Dutch. So, and I will explain maybe later in English as well. Ja, welkom iedereen. Ik weet niet of er ook mensen bij zijn die mee hebben gedaan aan de uiteindelijke tasting, die de tasting notes hebben samengesteld. Zo ja, dan welkom en leuk om met jullie ook weer te proeven. En voor de mensen die er niet bij waren, waaronder ik zelf, laten we hem eventjes doorproeven. Het is een 11-jarige whisky uit de Speyside regio. En heet Sweet Tongue Twister. En hij zit in de Sweet Fruity en Mellow categorie. Ik zag al dat er heel erg een link werd gelegd tussen Een beetje ouderwets, een beetje boekstore, oude snoepwinkel, waar het aan doet denken. En dat heb ik ook wel. Het heeft echt een beetje dat bijna oude hout. Als je inderdaad in een oude winkel binnenkomt lopen. Maar ook dat snoepjesachtige. Een beetje fruitig al, maar vooral op de neus voor mij vooral snoepjes. Ik zal even een slok nemen. Ja, hij komt wel even binnen. Wel een beetje branderig van de alcohol. Minder afgerond dan ik dacht qua bourbon, zeg maar. En daarna komt echt een beetje dat peperige. Beetje kruidig ook. Ja, interessant. Ik weet niet of iemand nog andere tasting notes heeft die naar voren komen. Ik ga ondertussen even een druppeltje water doen. Bruised apples and vanilla at the beginning and plums maybe. Oké, ja. So, dus eigenlijk wel inderdaad een beetje vanille. Beetje water erbij. Ja, dan komt dat fruit komt wat meer naar boven. Beetje peer, appel. Nou, net werd er al genoemd bruised apples. Dus. Rhubarb, ja, rabarber. Beetje custard, dus een beetje dat zoetige, warme. Heel interessant hoe die zich ontwikkelt. Meloen en forest honey. Oké, ja. Dus woudhoning. Heel apart hoe dit zich ontwikkelt. Als er verder geen Nederlandse opmerkingen zijn, dan ga ik weer terug naar het Engels. Zodat de rest het ook weer even begrijpt. Switching back to English now. I'm really interested in seeing the notes from the others. I don't see a lot of Dutch people or Belgian people coming up though, but that's fine. Interesting dram, in my opinion. So it changes if you put some water to it as well. So it starts a bit peppery, a bit like harsh even, but then it gets more fruity.
Oh, the estery fruity flavors in this are it's galore. Monique, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't understand a lot of Dutch, but it's what a beautiful language. It's just great to hear that you also speak better English than we do. It's probably everyone that's on here tonight does as well. Cheers, Monique.
Thank you. Cheers.
Speak for yourself, you Leith man. I'm from Glasgow. We speak perfect English in Glasgow.
Yeah, Glasgow's just a bigger version of Leith, isn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Monique, what a dram and just your English description as well was beautiful. The estery fruitiness to this, flavor galore, sweet tongue twister. Everyone, 39.251, John, this month's earlier release.
I think it's got a bit of lemon in it actually. I was getting quite a bit of lemon coming through, but also vanilla.
Yeah.
And a very, very rich dram, some chocolate pudding coming through. I think it's a wonderfully complex dram. I think there's lots there to be discovered. Sitting with this one over a period of time, like having two of them poured, but one pushed away, and you enjoy the first one and go back to the second one, I think would be very revealing,
Yeah,
this is a distillery which is regarded as being one of the top dressers for blended malts in Scotland. It's very, very sought after, and we always have a good cask from this distillery as well.
Only available in the EU, this one, guys. It seems to have done pretty well across all our new growing membership bases around Europe. 39.251. I believe it was only available across the EU, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been lucky to get access to that.
I think one of the things our EU members appreciate now, I think, is that as the membership grows and grows, we're trying to bottle more casks so that we can give, supply whiskies to our EU members that they might not previously have got in years gone by. So I think we've just opened in Spain too, of course. So we get more and more to try and achieve, to try and satisfy all the palates of our members around the world, really.
Brilliant, John. Diego Barra, like in Spain, when you mention España there, you'll know quite a lot about that. You were involved heavily. Is it Diego? Forgive me if I'm getting the name wrong.
Yes.
Spain, yeah.
Good Spanish name.
Yeah. Monique, just as we were sending each other a few wee messages there, just Monique was, when she describes the flavors there, just that immediate estery, fruity explosion. Monique, I think a lot of us, even I, just looking through the website recently, we forget how much access we have as members, and not only, employees and ambassadors, as whiskey fans, flavor fans, we forget how much access we have to partner bars across the EU and also globally. And I thought John, who's been involved in a lot of these global partner bars, whether it's out in Eastern Asia, John, but specifically for tonight's theme across the EU, the growing EU membership base, members can get access to all information of a membership perk that really is being able to access.
I think
traveling or not across the EU.
It's a great point you raised, Dean, because there's so much more to our membership than just being able to get access to the bottles of whiskey. I mean, for example, Unfiltered is about to be released for October. I've seen the previews, you probably have, Dean, and it's just such a fantastic monthly magazine for stories, for information about the society, for even formative stuff about particular distilleries and that kind of thing. I mean, Unfiltered is almost worth the membership fee on its own, really. And then, of course, we have access to those partner bars, Dean, so no one anywhere feels to left out. If you go onto your country's site, you will see where these partner bars are, and you'll be made more than welcome there. And of course, a discount on your dram because you're a member. It's just a fantastic thing. It's just about the society spreading the love for whiskey around as many places as possible. One of the amazing things, as I think about this society, is that we can all come from different places. We can all have different working careers, we can have different interests. What brings us together is the love of this whiskey that we produce, and that's one of the things that binds us together. So when we meet another member from another country, we've got something which actually is a very good basis for building a friendship and community.
Yeah, well said, John. Monique, please, if you can give us a bit more of the sweet tongue twister on the 39 there, and just your experience with Benelux and how much it's been just great to see folks, whether during the pandemic online, like we're doing tonight, and also post this world that we're hopefully getting into a bit more of. I've been able to travel again and see people, friends, whiskey fans, fellow society members from different parts of the EU and also worldwide.
Yeah, I'm happy that we can actually meet again. The festivals are coming up more and more. This weekend, for instance, we have Ghent, so Belgium, 2 days. Soon there's The Hague again. We're having a whiskey lunch at our newest partner bar. So we had one, the Maltvault in Utrecht already, and now they have one in The Hague as well. So there's like lunch coming up, but we'll be able to see that on Facebook and on the website. Yeah, so a lot is coming up. I like to see the people again in person.
Here's to that, John.
I see Roger Anderson. He's coming to London in October. If you let me know when that is, Roger, I can maybe meet you there. I know I'm away a bit in October, so I'm not quite sure about that. But great to see you at Greville Street. Yes.
See a lot of notes coming by as well. I saw also the Dutch apple cake or tart. This is the apple tart, so it's like it's a bit of apple and mainly cinnamon, I think. So,
Apple tart as well. Yeah, Kieran Cullen, I see our head chef here at the society he's actually made an apple tart tonight, Monique, for one of our members' events. But
okay, nice.
as soon as you mentioned that, hopefully he'll stop giving the little hand gestures at the door to the side here and start getting back to making that lovely flavour of apple pie, which does look delicious. But
It's
Monique,
better.
just brilliant. Even when you're, again, you speak better English than we do, right?
No, I don't.
The way you've just described the flavour and also, John, what you've just led into there again is usually quality is a community, and the community that being a member of the society, not only working with the society, being a member of the society, the community, especially this past year when things have opened up again. Monique, it's just great to see, whether it's on a screen, but most importantly, when hopefully a lot of us can start traveling around again and visiting each other.
Yeah.
It really has opened up. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been terrific. Yeah.
Well,
So,
thank
John,
you.
just on the website for partner bars, Monique, it was on. You'll be able to advise your members throughout Benelux, but on international, on the smws.com website, international partner bars, you'll be able to get all the access. Even if you were to Google just international partner bars SMWS, you get full information load there of what access you can get as a member.
Yeah, if you take your member card, for instance, you get a discount at
absolutely.
the venue. So.
And the partner bars around the world just love talking to our members because they can learn a bit from our members too. You know, so it's terrific. Yeah. And Anne Bingham is saying, actually, the community kept many of us sane during lockdown too. Yeah, good point, Anne. Good point. I mean, we did lots of these virtuals during lockdown, but obviously, because we can reach so many more people doing this, we'll continue to do these as well as the live ones. Well, thanks very much, Monique. That was terrific. I look forward to seeing you soon. I'll be in The Hague, I think. So I'll see you then. Yes. Okay. The next
cheers.
Yes, cheers, Monique. The next dram that we're going to has got a lovely name, a Negroni Riff. And we're going to a good friend in, where are we going? Here. Oh no, sorry. Got it wrong. Jumped the gun as usual. It's 1846 we're going to now. And we're going to our good friend Klaus in Sweden.
So
over to you, Klaus.
Thank you so much, John, and welcome to Sweden. My name is Klaus Bitschnau. I'm originally born in Austria, but I moved to Sweden. And first of all, we don't have ice bears in the streets, and we don't live in igloos, but we have some cold winters. And that's why this first dram, I will talk a little bit in Swedish, but I have looked and there's not so many Swedish on line tonight, so I will keep up in English because we can do it quite good. So this dram is an amazing thing, 18.46, and the name is Bandyportföljen, and I will explain it soon. But if you take the dram at first, också ni I Sverige, om ni tar den här drammen I början, and you just start to smell at it, and then you close your eyes, and then you have to imagine being on a big ice plane. It's like a hockey plane, because bandy, as it says on the name, it's like hockey, but with crooked sticks, small balls, and goes really fast, but they don't fight as much. Oh, okay, they do, but they hit on their legs. But when you are out there and it's cold, you're standing there with your cap on, and you're looking and everybody's saying, wow, wow. Then you take up something out of your portfolio, which you always have with you when you go to the bandy. There you have a thermos with hot coffee in it, and then you have a sandwich with some smoked sausages on it and something strong to it. In the nose, this is more Christmas, but in the taste, there you have it. It's more a little bit meaty, and it has all those malty flavors, and it just is amazing, because I think this one that has been started off in a bourbon barrel and then ended off in a PX or Oloroso Hoggy. I mean, for any total 13 years, it's just a really, really good dram. But I want to hear your comments, because I have had this for quite a few times now, because I've done a lot of tastings in Sweden, and I have been an ambassador for almost 4 years now. So I'm quite used to these things, but I just love this because you all, hello Roger, nice to see you again. We call us in Sweden as a big family, because the society is a big family. We have a little bit different laws, as you could find out if you come to Sweden. And if you come to Sweden, just give me a notice and we will do something fun together. So if there is any Swedish member that don't like me to speaking English, write it in the chat and I will go over to Swedish. But I think it's a little bit, then everybody can understand. So this is a fantastic dram. And in regarding also in the drams and talking about the books, I love to learn a lot. So of course I have the Pip Hill's Founder Tales. I also have his Star Drive, and I got that Scotch Directory. And of course they're all signed by Pip. It's a good friend of mine, and he's just a lovely man. Just a lovely man. He just get me really worried one time, because I had him online. I have done a lot of online chats, 102 in a row, Tuesdays evenings, and I had him on the chat. And when I talked to him before and I said, okay, Pip, what are you going to do now? He said, just going up on the roof and take away the shit from the birds. And I said, oh, wow, you're not young anymore. Take it easy. But he was he did take it subtle. So I had to meet them again. So love you, Pip. I'd love to meet you again. But please, there is a lot of things going on, and there's a lot. The society is growing here in Sweden really, really fast. So we are soon up to 1,000 members in Sweden, and that's just because everybody loves this. And,
fantastic.
So, what do you think, John, about this dram?
Actually think that I was getting quite a lot of toffee in it, and kind of muddled sugar and rich red wine, quite syrupy, I thought,
Yeah, it's a really Christmas in the beginning, but as we say, when you go out in the ice and it's cold and it gets really, really, it warms you up.
Sure, I was getting a little bit of sprinkling of cinnamon and paprika, just as you were saying there, yeah. So it's got a nice spicy feel to it too, yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. So it's interesting what you were saying there about Pip, Klaus, because as you say, he's not a young man anymore, but what a life he has had. I mean, you talk about him going up on a roof. I mean, he's got stories in that book about when he was mountaineering, when he was younger and nearly killed himself. And then there was another incident where he was lucky to survive as well, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
On a blooming little
on a boat and under
I mean,
everywhere.
Just incredible. You just get every time I'm with him, I'm just like so enamored with all of the stories he has to tell,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all of those stories and I Founder's Tale, and he's got so many more. I suggested to him that he should do a sequel, but he had a good reason for not doing that, actually. But he really got so many stories. And that Star Drive book that you just showed there, that was about a 19th century Scottish engineer who Pip reckons is a forgotten man in Scotland, but his invention is still used at NASA. And there was a magazine in Scotland published a little kind of story about the inventor, and Pip spoke to the magazine, and then guess what? He's got a bigger story about the man in the magazine coming up, and he's also got a little bit of the Scottish Malt Whisky Society in it too. Yeah. So he's whenever he speaks to anybody about the Scottish Malt Whisky Society, he just completely brings them on side.
Yeah. It's always that, and it gets together, and that's also why we are so proud here in Sweden, because we're up to 9 partner bars here in Sweden, because it's much more difficult here with the alcohol laws, and that's one of my challenge with the Scottish Malt Whisky Society always, because Andrew and I be talking. He has a lot of ideas, and then he says, "We can do this," and I say, "Nope." Then we can give no, and then we can a discount no. Sorry, that's the life here. But we are very, very inventive here in Sweden. That's why we came up with the name Bandit Portfolio on this, because this is picked by the Swedish member. We sent out a lot of samples so people could try it, and then we did the taste notes, and then we sat around and talked about it, and then somebody said, "Oh, this is like just going out to on that ice, and when you're standing there and free, and when you taste this, oh, this is that sandwich with the smoked ham, sausages on it, and the coffee and the chocolate and everything," and you just smile and thinking, "Wow, we did it again!" Yeah. It's a leather briefcase, as Roger says. There you have it. So it's just to hide away all the bottles, because you're not allowed to drink in public in Sweden. But yeah, something like that. So that's a little bit of the story. I must say, I must raise my glass to you all, because I think you're all awesome, and I'm so happy and proud to be a good member of this family. And as long as you don't kick me out, I will be here.
No, it's great to see you, Klaus. I think the last time we saw each other, you were over in London with Magnus. Is that right? Yeah.
And Magnus is there this weekend in London Whisky Show.
Yeah, sure. What was that you were over for? It wasn't the whiskey show, was it?
Yeah, it was the Whisky Show.
That's a year ago then. A year ago. My
Time
goodness.
goes fast.
Yeah. No,
and you said you should come over and visit me, but I was still waiting.
Well, let's see what we can do about that in our 40th anniversary year, Klaus.
Yeah, here.
I hope everybody enjoyed this, because this one, I will say it, for the last 3 tasting I had with this in it, it has always been number 1 in the tastings. It got the most votes.
Okay, good stuff. And it's one of those distilleries, Klaus, which you don't see a lot of as a single malt. It's what you might call a lesser known distillery. So most of it goes to blends. So we do very well to get the supply of it that we do.
Yeah, it's a big part of the Bell's blended, because it has no official bottling. It just has one in Flora and Fauna series. So that's all.
Absolutely.
Thank you for me.
Slange, Klaus, all the best. Cheers.
Slange. Cheers, Klaus.
Fantastic.
Fabulous, John.
Did you enjoy that one, Dean?
I really did, yeah. I mean, from Tony, what chance have we got talking about our whiskey here when all props to Tony, Anthony, Delcros, and Monique and Klaus there. That's, again, speaking better English than, well, I do, maybe not so much of yourself.
I guess I never ever told you, Dean, about the first, when I moved to England all those years ago. Not long after I moved, I was in a bar, and there was only one other chap in the bar, and I asked for a pint of bitter. And well, as she gave me the pint of bitter, I says, "Oh, can I have a packet of peanuts as well?" And she gave me a pint of Guinness. Packet of peanuts, pint of Guinness. So that's when I decided I better start speaking more slowly here in England, you know. So I hope it's working.
Yeah. Well, nowadays,
Anyway,
I mean, we like as members with flavour and foods, but rather than peanuts nowadays, you're offered kind of like very bespoke avocado and toast. And it's always interesting to see some whiskey faces that are like, I'm actually more interested in the flavour of the whiskey than the...
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing, though, how it's developed, Dean, over the years. I mean,
the last 5 years in particular, John.
Pairing has become such a big thing now that people enjoy, you know.
Absolutely.
And we've done lots of it ourselves, as you know. And sometimes what I think we've discovered, and I know a couple of instances particularly, was when you get someone who thinks they don't like whiskey, and then you pair it with some food that they like and the whiskey, and all of a sudden they have this kind of Valhalla moment that, my goodness, that actually goes very well, and it doesn't taste like the whiskey I remember, you know.
That's John. You just for you to elaborate on that a wee bit more. Any time that you come across anybody in your life, whether it's been through the SMWS or your passion for whiskey previously, you end up becoming even if you do not find yourself, it generally always comes down to, rather than spider diagrams. Remember, when you'll be able to tell the audience tonight with Pip's book, you know, remember when
Yes,
pioneering
yes.
of flavor profiles. Now,
Yeah.
yes, we can have our spider diagrams and we can have our various different forms of scientific wheels. But when it comes to flavor, I know in my time here meeting members from not only local in Edinburgh and Scotland, but blessed to have so many people visit the vaults and see it, the consumer engagements around the UK, that the amount of people that come and we don't find ourselves chatting over spider diagrams, each to their own. Nothing wrong with that. We find ourselves just talking as friends and becoming a community with people that you've just met because of this beautiful flavor that's in our glasses.
I think one of Pip's stories is quite an important one, I think, because it shows how things have changed in the last generation or so. When Pip formed the tasting panel way back in 1983, one of his friends who had on a tasting panel was a writer, a very good writer. He was very expressive in his work, and he knew how to use words. And Pip thought, and he liked whiskey, so Pip thought he'd be great on the panel. And when he was on the panel and Pip asked him what he thought, he would say, "Oh yeah, that's very nice." And Pip said, "Could you maybe say a bit more?" He said, "Very, very nice," you know. And that's all they could ever get out of him. That's all they could ever get out of him.
And he was quite a very well-renowned writer, but yeah, words were silent when he was.
Words were his trade. But nowadays, I mean, if our members are on a journey, which we all are, we'll never ever get to the end of the journey for flavour and whiskey. On the website, with the kind of typical flavour types that you might get for each flavour profile, it's sometimes worth having those available to you, because often there's a flavour which you know what it is, but you just can't pinpoint what it is, and that might help. And that helps you kind of educate your palate and connect it with your limbic system in your brain, so you can better express yourself going forward, and you'll recognize that flavor for what it is again. So it's and it's different for everybody, but it's a fantastic thing to be able to do, to get that whiskey in front of you and be able to say it's a bit more than it's just nice, you know.
John, absolutely. I mean, tonight's drams, these five wee beauties tonight, they've not been selected by our, you know, since the premise since 1983, as John was saying about our tasting panel. They've been selected by this kind of, it's a new tasting panel, isn't it? Our members throughout the EU have selected these whiskies, these 5 whiskies tonight. Everyone's trying it. It's our membership base that have selected these at our specific EU locations. I wish I was a wee fly in the wall or a wee spider in the diagram on the wall to be there to see all these members throughout the EU select these whiskies. That's what it's all about. Slange to you guys.
Just talking about language and flavour, not just foreign language, but our language in Glasgow and in Leith, Dean. Anne Bingham reminds me of me saying to her, "Let's go to the Bon Accord for a hoff and a hoff."
Yeah.
I just didn't know what I was talking about, you know.
Not only one half and half. It's never just one, is it?
I know, but for all our European members who are listening, a hoff and a hoff is Glasgow terminology for a half and a half, and a half and a half is a beer with a whiskey. So a half pint of beer and a whiskey which used to be called a half in Scotland, you know, in Glasgow. So a half and a half became a hoff and a hoff. And that's coming back into fashion again with all the different craft beers that are available. But back in my father's day, which is obviously going back a long time, they would just get a half pint of beer, a whiskey, and sling it back, and then sip the beer, and maybe then have another couple of whiskeys and with the same beer, you know. But we're a bit more sophisticated these days, even in Glasgow.
Yeah. Whether it's the bigger Leith that is Glasgow or the smaller Glasgow that is Leith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone, as John was saying there, leading in to flavour, wherever we are in the EU tonight, we're delighted to announce from our UK membership base they've selected this whiskey number 4, John.
Yeah.
Cask number 68.95.
Yeah. This is a Highland distillery, and it's been moved to a first fill ex Oloroso hogshead after the bourbon. So remember what you're doing, folks, when you're tasting a whiskey. What you're trying to do is think about what flavours were created by that distillery in the new make spirit, and how has that flavour been developed by the cask in which it's been matured. So you've got a kind of nature and nurture thing going on there. And when we move it to another cask, you've actually got a third element. So you've got the new make spirit, then you have the initial cask, and then the extra flavours that may be added, that will have been added by the extra finishing cask. So it's another element to what is a wonderful journey. People think that we've started doing extra maturation only in recent years, and it's not true. We've did more of it in recent years, but we did our first extra maturation cask in 1991, actually. So it's something we've been doing for years and years to try and grow flavour by changing the cask. Okay, so this is look at the colour on this one for a start. It's just looks absolutely wonderful, and that colour usually comes from the sherry cask element, doesn't it?
Yeah, John,
Okay.
10 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead.
Yeah, then 3 in the Oloroso.
And then we've put that up to 36 months in a first fill Oloroso hogshead. You mentioned creative and creation earlier there, John. A massive part of the blended market that makes up our growing whiskey industry over centuries. At the society the last few years, we've been able to acquire so many different types of niche casks that quite often might not even have any spirit in them, but have been sourced, whether it's been through Jerez in Spain, various niche French oak throughout France, America, United States, throughout not only Missouri and the Ozarks, but through various areas of the states of American white oak. The society, John's been able to acquire all these different types of casks that we use the words additional maturation, but it's play, isn't it? It's playing, it's experimenting, it's creating flavor.
I think the right word is
That's
creation.
what I get with this one.
It's creating. Dean, you're right. We're creating flavour. We're creating flavour in whiskey. That's what we're about doing. So it's a lot more than just getting a cask from a distiller and putting it in a bottle, which is what happens with maybe some of the companies that we know as independent bottlers. We're actually doing a lot more than that. A lot of more imagination and creation around what we do, and this is an example of it. I was talking about gathering earlier, Dean. I forgot to mention, I don't know how many of our European members have been to Scotland for a gathering, but in Scotland it's traditional that when you're having a gathering and you're welcoming people from another clan in days gone by, that you drank the whiskey from a quaich. Yeah, one of those. And there's no other country in the world can lay claim to this kind of vessel for drinking. Only Scotland. That's where it was invented. That's where its home is. And what happens is that, well, let's do this the next time we have a live gathering in Edinburgh and some of you European members come across. What happens is that you present it to your guest, and your guest takes a sip of the whiskey and hands it back to you, and you take a sip of the whiskey from the other side of the quaich. Yeah. So you're drinking the same whiskey from the same vessel, but it's a mark of respect and community and friendship. So it's a wonderful piece of our history connected to the idea of gathering.
John, that's it right there. The gathering, from whether it's festivals that were being made and created by the Danish team in Vejle, over the festivals that they do, primarily in February, at the start of February every year, not to be interrupted by pandemic. They're going into next year, one of the biggest festivals at the Society within the EU. I found myself speaking to you there and online on a screen, and also to our membership base on our comments tonight. It's not possible to be able to shout out everyone, but on behalf of John and I, and Monique, Klaus, Tony, and Jutta was about to go on, we've just spoke for the last 5 to 10 minutes there, not so much about the exact science and makeup of this 68.95 whiskey, but about storytelling and about different parts that all come together. And from what I've learned from you, John, over the years, it's each to their own. We can talk about the chemistry, we can talk about the spider diagrams, but let's be honest, the majority of the time, when you're fortunate enough to be able to meet people from a whiskey society throughout Europe and global, you normally find yourself just storytelling together because of the flavor and quality of flavor in a glass, rather than only about the spirit. And
I think that's a wonderful point, Dean, because there's a difference really between technical tasting. You know, I mean, on the tasting panel, they're technically tasting. They're trying to make a judgment against various categories which they are judging the whiskey against. If you're at a whiskey awards competition, you're doing a very studious type of thing. What we're doing at our events is enjoying the moment and the event because of and with the flavour in the whiskey. You know, it's a completely different thing. And when you walk away from one of our events and tastings, you should have a feeling that was informative but entertaining as well.
Brilliant, John. Well said.
Remember, we did one a couple of years ago, one of these virtuals, Dean, from the vaults.
Yeah, was that not when I had, like, before COVID? It sounded like there was something going on.
Yeah, what was it? Was it a gathering?
There was a lot of folk that were like, "Thank God he's lost his voice." But but that was actually really nicely done. And ever since then, John, that was back in 2018, 19.
Is it really as long ago as that? My goodness.
2019, maybe it was the year before
COVID. Yeah.
Or that year we won't mention. Yeah. But yeah, first fill Oloroso, as John's just mentioned, everyone, we're leading into Jutta, John, if you could introduce, please. But on behalf of all our membership base, we selected this whiskey, 68.95 from the vaults here in Scotland and Leith in the UK. First fill Oloroso hogsheads after a wee additional maturation. A big takeaway from me there is not only the tasting notes that are bang on, in my opinion, but that word creation. Creative and playful.
Absolutely.
Creative and playful. That's the way it's going to continue, hopefully, to grow, John, as well. Creative and playful whiskey. Why not? Absolutely.
Fantastic. So someone is saying burnt caramel. I could totally agree with that. Yeah. Or they go back to 18 for that.
Campari with Jägermeister.
Okay. Oh no, so Ian McIntosh, he's going back to 18 and he's getting burnt caramel now, yeah. Okay. It's sometimes good to bounce between them, isn't it? During the course of a day, especially when you get two of a similar flavour profile, just to see what the differences are. It's an incredible thing, you know, folks. And it's something science cannot explain. But there's no two distilleries anywhere in Scotland can replicate the spirit of another. It doesn't matter how close they are, how similar the process is. The new make spirit in every single distillery has a different flavour profile from the another one, even before it goes into the cask. And science really doesn't know the reason why. Obviously, they're continuing to try and look into it, but they couldn't give you that answer straight off.
That's the beauty of it, John, as well.
Yes, it is. It's romance. It's about the place,
the science,
the people, and all that. Yeah.
The science is as exact in the whiskey industry as it is in most consumer industries. But the beauty of it is that there's no one ever really knows exactly why something can become. You just mentioned revisiting there. Was it Ian, John, you mentioned? Someone mentioned going back to the 18.
Yeah, Ian McIntosh, I think it was, said go back to the 18 and he got burnt caramel.
I always talk about like going and revisiting a place or a family member.
Yes.
Revisiting a whiskey, the dynamic of flavor and aromas that change when you go back to it.
Sure. And also, it's that idea of flavour being associated with your personal memory, Dean, isn't it? And that your personal memory might, the flavour might bring a personal memory back to you, which is very personal, not for anyone else. And that's why sometimes people get different tasting notes mean something to them, and why a tasting note can never be wrong. You know, any member who thinks they get this or that, it cannot be wrong. You know.
No, it's subjective.
Yeah.
Jutta, John, if you could introduce Jutta, please.
Yeah, sure.
You know Jutta very well. I've been fortunate to meet Jutta and her family over recent years, but John, you know them real well.
Yes, hiya, Jutta. I was in Austria, and yes. I think it was May, I think, Jutta.
Yes.
And we did a little tour around the country, visiting partner bars and that kind of thing. We had a tasting in a very unusual place, didn't we? On a kind of one of these wheels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I saw a fantastic amount of Austria during that tour with you and Hannah and Thomas. It was really fantastic. You know, I really enjoyed it, and we had a great time. So it's really good to see you, Jutta. And for anyone who hasn't checked it out yet, if you look at Hannah's Instagram, you'll see a couple of days ago, Hannah and Jutta bouncing about, doing dancing very, very well, I would say, on Instagram because they've got some food or something. So I'm going to hand over to Jutta to talk about this one from 112 Distillery. And then we can have a chat about it afterwards, Jutta, because this is a very, very, very special distillery, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Good evening from Austria. I'm Jutta, and I'm for more than 12 years with the society, and I love this job, I have to say. So, and today I can present the Austrian Gathering bottle. It's the 112.109 with a heavily peated flavor profile. And it's a 15 years old from a refill ex-bourbon hogshead. So yeah, I like refill casks, and yeah, I think this is a very interesting drum because from the smell it's smooth, and I think I'm tell you 2 or 3 things in English and then I will switch to German. For me, it's a very smooth drum and oily, fluffy, as in the tasting notes, and on the palate, very, very smoky. So, and now I will switch to German. Der Titel dieser Abfüllung, hallo nach Österreich außerdem, an alle österreichischen Mitglieder und natürlich auch an den Rest. Wir haben heute die Abfüllung 112/109 mit dem Titel Das rennende Schaf am Strand. Das hat eine Gruppe von Mitgliedern aus Knittelfeld, die haben die Tasting Notes erstellt, und wir haben uns für diesen Titel und für diese Tasting Notes entschieden. Also wir haben letztes Jahr im September bei den Tastings Samples ausgeteilt und es haben 20 Personen insgesamt verkostet und ich möchte mich bei allen sehr herzlich bedanken. Es konnte dann eine Gruppe eben das Rennen machen und den Titel und die Verkostungsnotiz geben. Er ist von der Farbe her, ist er eher Blassgold, würde ich sagen, was auf das Fass hindeutet, eben auf das Refill, Hogshead, Bourbonfass. Vom Geruch her bringt der erdige, maritime Noten, also salzige Noten. Und wir haben heute auf einer Messe in Graz, haben wir das diskutiert mit einem Gast, der den Hinweis gefunden hat, dass es nicht jetzt nach einem Schaf am Strand riecht, sondern eher nach einem Schafstall. Das kann ich jetzt nicht so ganz bestätigen. Ich kann aber sehr wohl das Lanolin, das Wohlfett riechen. Und das ist eigentlich wunderbar, finde ich. Vom Geschmack her hat er wirklich so eine feine Öligkeit. Also ich finde ihn sehr sanft im Mund. Er hat auch nicht sehr viele Prozente, also er ist mit 51,5% für unsere Verhältnisse relativ mild. Und ich persönlich würde jetzt kein Wasser hinzufügen, weil ich denke mal, das passt schon so, wie das ist. Vom Abgang her ist er eher dezent, würde ich sagen, auch so wie im Geruch. Ja, also im Geruch ist er sehr dezent, aber der Rauch kommt dann im Geschmack schon sehr deutlich hervor. Und das Heavily Peated, ja, kann man diskutieren. Es passt aber, denke ich. Der Abgang, wie gesagt, ist mittellang, würde ich sagen. Und ich probiere es jetzt trotzdem mit ein paar Tropfen Wasser, wie es sich entwickelt. Also ich habe auch so fruchtige Noten, Biskuittöne, Kekse, eher Biskuit. Und ja, jetzt werden wir mal kosten, wie das mit Wasser sich dann verändert. Mit Wasser, finde ich, bekommt er dann so leicht zitronige Noten auch, wird noch weicher. Ja, eigentlich ein sehr feiner Dram. Wir würden sagen, mit diesen Prozenten, ja, ein Frühstücksdram schon fast, weil er so angenehm und leicht zu trinken ist. Also überhaupt keine Schärfe im Geschmack und auch nicht im Geruch. Ja, eigentlich perfekt, würde ich sagen. Und ich möchte auch der Gruppe in Knittelfeld möchte ganz herzlich danken. Ich weiß nicht, ob Sie zusehen. Ich glaube, die haben sehr viel Spaß gehabt. Die waren, glaube ich, zu 4 oder zu 5. Und das ist eine Gruppe von langjährigen Mitgliedern, die sich da wirklich so eingehend damit beschäftigt haben. Ja, sie haben auch ein salzverkrustetes Stück Treibholz gefunden. Nein, es soll nicht heißen das brennende Schaf, sondern das rennende Schaf. Das passt schon. Also sie haben zum Ende der Verkostungsnotiz haben sie geschrieben und ein Schaf lief vorbei. Also der Titel passt eigentlich auch hervorragend, muss ich sagen. Ja, ich kann mir vorstellen, wie man ja in Schottland an einem Strand sitzt. Also wir sitzen da ja nicht wirklich am Strand des Meeres, sondern eines großen Lochs. Also um jetzt nicht ganz direkt von der Brennerei zu sprechen, das ist eine relativ große Brennerei, von der wir 3 Nummern im Programm haben, die allesamt sehr, sehr interessant sind. Und es gibt leider kein Besucherzentrum, aber die Whiskys, die wir haben, sind alle exzellent. Also 112, 122, 135, das gehört zusammen, liegt an einem wunderbaren Loch mit einem dazugehörigen Berg, den ich schon bestiegen habe vor langer, langer Zeit. Und ja, ich kann es nur jedem empfehlen, dort in die Gegend hinzufahren. Ich werde jetzt wieder auf Englisch umsteigen und John nach seiner Meinung fragen. Also, John, what do you say to the drum? What's your meaning? We can't hear you, John. You're muted.
Oh, sorry, am I? Oh my goodness, what happened there? Okay, let's see.
So the title is a running sheep on the beach.
Can you hear me now? No?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay, good. Yeah. Oh no, I think it's got I think it's smoky and salty and sweet as well.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I think it's got a bit of a canned tuna in there, I think. You know, and somebody was asking, can it be smoky and salty? Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
Yeah.
And the thing about Rolf had just told us which distillery it is, yeah. But one of the wonderful things about this distillery is that it's the most complex distillery in the whole of Scotland because of the number and different types of stills it has. It can make 11 different types of new make spirit. And it's a great believer in that when you make good the new make spirit, then you make good whiskey because it's good when you put it into the cask. And they've got such a range of different new make spirits they can make. It's very complex. They're very, very friendly with us. The distiller there is a very good friend of us. And as you know, Jutta, he's did kind of sessions for us as ambassadors, telling us all about it. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful dram. And I know some people here on the comments have said that they're trying to convince themselves that it's good because they don't like peated whiskey, and all of that stuff is very good because it's some people say they don't like it, don't they? But I think that we work hard to try and convert you. You know.
Yeah, we do.
And a couple of people have actually looked back, and it's given them memories from many, many years ago. I think it was Ian McIntosh referred to a memory from 30 years ago about smoking a Regal cigarette or something, and it reminded him of that. And someone else talked about bonfires and marshmallows on bonfires as a child, and that's terrific. That's what I was saying earlier about how a flavour can just bring back a memory for you, you know.
Yeah. So I mentioned before that we are at the festival at the moment in Graz, and there was not a member, but someone who tried this one, and he said, "Oh, he reminds it to sheep in the stable," and I don't say, "Oh no, it's not the stable, but it's the wool fat, the lanolin. I can smell, because my husband's family has a farm." And they had sheeps before, and so it reminds me to the smell of the sheeps. And
See,
that's great. It's really great. Yeah.
Because if that smell reminds you of that, Jutta, when you get another one which has got that smell, that'll bring you back to it, you know. So it's just building your flavour knowledge all the time, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And even me at 45, I mean, I'm still building my.
Jutta, the tasting notes are fantastic there, John. And how you guys came about the growing membership base around Deutschland and Austria specifically, Jutta. Your tasting notes there on that 112.109, heavily peated, Jutta, for a whiskey for flavour that's not coming. John, an example of we've never been about since 1983 exactly where it's coming from, but more about the nuances of flavour. And with that example there, 112.109, it's not from a certain distilleries that you would expect to be heavily peated.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah, that's really true.
I think that's a great point, Dean, because let's face it, you can make peated whiskey anywhere. It's just a question of drying the barley with the peat, you know. And we've got Highland whiskies that do it. But as you're inferring to there, there's a certain region of Scotland which is better known for it. I wonder, Jutta, if you had that whiskey up against a big Lafroig or something, whether you would still think it was heavily peated.
This one?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah.
So I think it's sometimes it's difficult to give it to peated or heavily peated.
Absolutely.
So
it's a broad brushstroke, isn't it? The flavor profile descriptors are a nice wee lead-in. It's a broad brushstroke, but how do you define near infinite amounts of flavors and aromas in the whiskies?
Absolutely.
It's just a nice wee broad brushstroke. But yeah, we find ourselves saying, wait, some people will find that heavily peated, some people will find that lightly peated, and that's the conversation in a glass, right?
I think this one is therefore difficult because it's so smooth. It's such a smooth whiskey. I can't remember to have such an example of a whiskey, of a peated whiskey, let's say.
Got me comment from Sean McCheyne. He said that when John said he was 45, he wasn't counting his school years.
I thought he was talking about you, John. And by the way, as my mum and dad say hi, John, they've only met you like a couple of times when you've been. I mean, your mum and dad say hello, and they've private messaged on the phone there saying, "Wait, John, to be honest, you stick in there with John and the whiskies because he's looking bloody fantastic." Excuse me for using the word bloody. That's just this. That's this Scots language. But flavour, John. Again, Jutta, to lead into the guys with flavour. John, 112, heavily peated. We used it at the tasting last night here at the Vaults venue, where we had Mirko and many members visiting from the EU, over the past few weeks, and 3 of them were in with the big members tasting last night, and we used the 112 as part of the tasting last night. We put it up. I put it up as number 4 in a 5-dram tasting. That I'm sure all you guys, as you're all hopefully keep providing the wee comments and feedback to us, and what you want to know more of from the tasting panel. But when deciding to put 112 before the 53 number 5, there was a lot of comments on, well, why are we going in with a heavily peated whiskey before a lightly peated whiskey? And that conversation in a glass flowing. The flavor profiles are a lovely wee broad brushstroke that it's subjective. Some people will find them maybe heavier peated than others, but the room was really, really quite delighted with the fact that Jutta, the one that you've introduced tonight, 112 heavily peated, we used that as number 4 last night, and we used what was considered a medium peated from Isla, John, number 53, the final whiskey from a PX cask as well, 53 rare stock. We used that as number 5, and everyone was. It just gets the conversation and the debate flowing, around that flavor.
So we are doing sometimes the same to change the whiskies. Sometimes we had a peated as 3rd whiskey. So it depends on how is the tasting. Do we have a dinner or not? And I think we can switch, and it brings discussion, and that's good.
Sure.
Good. Yeah, and when we have dinner, sometimes we have a spicy and sweet after the dinner because it cleans the palate, and it's good to clean and put the spicy things away from the meal.
I think Jutta, that's what I was saying earlier, is that like we're always changing what we might call the kind of rules and traditions. I mean, the rule always kind of was that you always finish the tasting with the peated whiskey, because the peated whiskey would, before the finish, would be too much for the other whiskies. And really, as Dean said, when we've tried it different, in London venue, we've tried it a couple of times differently. We've used the peated whiskey at 3 or 4, and it's gone down really well. And I just think that we're always exploring and wondering and trying new things, because at different times, different moments, different things will work in a different way,
Yeah.
Especially where there's food involved, because that can change the pattern, that can change the picture completely.
And Jutta, that TikTok about the food last night that John made a wee lead on earlier on, we won't reveal people's personal Instagram and TikTok accounts. But John, you were mentioning that you had seen your good friends Jutta and her daughter Hannah, one of our Austria ambassadors, Jutta's daughter, last night on the TikTok Instagram.
Absolutely.
We were on Instagram and we had really great fun. We did the videos on, I think, on Wednesday when we were ready with preparing the festival in Graz, and when we were ready with the stand, we had a meal and we had champagne, and it was great fun.
But just let me tell you something, because next year is our 40th anniversary. And we're going to be doing lots of new things. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to set up an SMWS EU dancing team.
Okay.
So you and Hannah are the first two choices for that.
Of course. We're going to train you. We have planned for another video, but it needs training. It needs hard training.
So we've seen the one after champagne. Let's see what happens after the society whiskies that have been.
Absolutely.
John, from Monique, Klaus, Anthony, and Jutta tonight, the tasting notes that you and I can't maybe read verbatim from Word, the way they've described it, the membership bases within Austria, within France, within Benelux. Some cracking tasting notes that just goes to show you our membership base are starting to get to a level that our lovely wee esteemed tasting panel have been at since the 80s, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you something. This has been a wonderful tasting, I think, with lots of great comments from our members all over. Fantastic. And that's what it's all about, really, is that interaction, you know. So I think that we should probably think about saying good night and Slanjiva. And I would like to say thank you, Jutta, and all of our ambassadors that we've enjoyed hearing from tonight, because I think it's been a wonderful experience, particularly for our members hearing some discussion in their own language and that kind of thing. So I'll just finish with a little toast, because there's been a lot of love here tonight, yeah? So I think I should say to everyone who's listening, ladies and gentlemen, love makes the world go round, but whiskey makes it go round a little faster. Slanjiva.
Slanjiva. Cheers.
Slanjiva.
Jutta, Monique, Tony, and to everyone around the EU, the society, and globally, cheers. Slanj.
Cheers.
Slanj.
It's nice to see you.
Skål.
Hope to see you all
Fantastic.
soon.